So my name is Carlos Walker, and this is Forward Progress. Forward Progress, what we do here is we talk to formerly incarcerated people who have come home and made change in their life. I have Mr. Khalid Kareem with me. How you doing, bruh?
I'm all right. I'm all right. And I'm grateful to be here, man. I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, man. Hey, one thing I come to learn from meeting you is your genuineness, your spirit, and God allowed me to meet a great brother that we done connected ever since the first time we met.
Yes, sir.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna first talk about the past before you went to prison. We're gonna talk about doing prison, then we're gonna talk about everything you're doing now, because that's the forward progress. So,
Okay.
if you will, first tell the people who you are, how much time you done, and just briefly what you're doing now.
Yes, sir. Uh, well, as the brother said, I'm Khalid Kareem, a Washington, D.C. native, though I've stayed in a few other places in the DMV. Um, Born and raised like, many people in the hood, if you will. Um, Separations, drug addictions, alcoholism, but love, love, the attempt at that love with family and structure, and just the struggle, real struggle. Was incarcerated, did 25 years. That's where I pretty much grew. That's where I pretty much grew and evolved as a man. Uh, Took a while. I got locked up when I was young, 16 going on 17. Had a life sentence and 10 plus 10 years, and went in wild, like many people do. But eventually, I found my purpose, and I changed. Uh, I did a lot of reading, did a lot of introspection, a lot of reflection, soul searching. Ultimately soul searching, and I realized I didn't want to die in prison. I didn't want to live my entire life in prison and die in there. So I forced myself to grow, forced myself to change and evolve. And I did a lot of good while I was in there. Did a lot of mentoring while I was in there, forged a lot of
We gonna get
bonds.
to that.
And by the grace of the Most High, I'm out here now. And so what I do now is I'm a building engineer, but I work a lot. I work a lot. I mentor youth in a neighborhood in DC called Potomac Gardens. I've been doing that for about 4 years now. We've taken them to the zoo. We've taken them to pet farms. We've, you know, had the kids run around the neighborhood picking up trash, giving them money. Have done that on quite a few occasions. And every other Friday, I go over there and I let the kids be kids for about 3, 4 hours. I was given access to the rec center, and I let the kids do arts and crafts. I let them play games, listen to music, but I also sit them down and talk to them. I sit them down and ask them questions about life, what they want to do in life, where they want to be in life, and what is it going to take for them to get there. I try to be an ear for them. I try to be a consistency for them as well, and I'm grateful for that. I've spoken in several juvenile detention centers. At least once a month, I'm down Newport News Detention Center with a few brothers of mine, Troy Catchmore, another brother named Pole Cat, and a brother named Prince, and Chanel Catchmore. I've spoken at Landmark Detention Center in Alexandria. I've spoken at DC Detention Center, Maryland, New Beginnings. Um, I've spoken at DC jail on 2 occasions, Chesterfield City Jail. I've spoken at a few think tanks, seminars for CASA, DC Bridges Program, and a few other events. I was a guest speaker at People to People, which is run by a brother named Rodney Grimes, beautiful brother. He has seminars often. Um, and I just continue to, strive to tell my story along with other people's story with the intent to inspire
Okay.
by showing my growth and showing my development, but also with the intent to prove that people can make mistakes, serious mistakes, and turn out to be okay, and that's primarily what I want to do is give back to our community, to our youth, and just to just to society, honestly, just to help back, so as much as I can, as often as I can, and that, that's what I strive to do. That's what I strive to do.
So this is what we're gonna do. Let's get into the story. So Before you went to prison,
Mm.
let the people know a little bit about who you were, and even what you went to prison for. You ain't got to go into pure detail about it, but just briefly kind of catch them up. We're going to go through the story.
Yes, sir. I was born, like I say, in DC. My father and my mother were married at the time. Um, they got a divorce shortly after. I think I was around 2 or 3. My father had lost his brother, my uncle, and that kind of turned him sour. He was a Muslim. My mother was Muslim in the Nation of Islam. And my father just, I guess, lost his cool, if you will, and just kind of went out there, was wilding, and that caused him and my mother to fracture. They got a divorce, and about 2 or 3 years later, he remarried. And with my stepmother, he had 3 more children. Um, and they got along for a while. I remember good times, but they had a lot of arguments. There was a lot of walkouts, a lot of just a lot of fracturing. Not too long after that, they got a divorce in probably the early '80s, maybe mid '80s. We had lived in a few places. I think by the time I was 15, I went to 15 different schools. I stayed in Calvert County. I stayed in Falls Church. I stayed in Arlington for a second, uh, Alexandria, and even stayed in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, with my father because when we were down Maryland, Calvert County, he had some weed growing on the land quite a bit, and the police raided the land, and he decided to go down St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, and I went with him. Not really wanting him to be alone. He got on crack cocaine down there, and we came back about a year later. This was late '80s, maybe '87. My biological mother had 2 more sons at the time, and she had been going through a lot. She was living uptown, Northwest Washington, D.C., uh, with my brothers, and my older brother, he had been back in Southeast staying with some family. My younger brothers and my sister, they were in Arlington, Alexandria Falls Church. And so it was a lot of moving around. But we came back up. My father got on drugs real heavy. My stepmother, she was on it every now and again, not a lot. And my biological mother, she was a recluse. I didn't know why at the time, but she stayed in our apartment. Like, she rarely came out. Like when people say, you get a check on the 1st and the 15th, that was her. So fast forward, went to St. Croix, we came back, everybody's on crack cocaine. 88, 89, 90, everybody's on drugs. Half my family selling, half on it. Eventually, I was starting to get locked up. I got into a lot of fights living up Northwest. My older brother had moved back to Southeast. So I just was getting into a lot of situations. I wasn't starting them, to be honest. It was just being different, being from Southeast, coming to different, new neighborhoods, forming friendships, just getting into ghettos. You had Clifton Terrace right there, Fairmont Street, and neighborhoods in between, that I would frequent, whether going to school or just knowing people in them. And eventually I started getting in trouble going to Arlington and visiting my younger brothers and my sister. And as I went over there a lot, I would get into trouble over there a lot as well. And I started getting locked up in juvie, probably a month here, 3 months here, 4 months there. Got kicked out of school, or rather I dropped out, but kind of got kicked out almost because I just wasn't showing up. Went to Cadoza High School. I was going to Shaw Junior High. I went to Cadoza High School for 5 days. I wanted to go to school. I remember that. I honestly wanted to go to school. I just lost interest. I felt like, when I think about it, I felt like I wanted more. My mother was on welfare in Northwest. She had 4 boys. My biological mother, she had 4 boys. Myself, my older brother, and my youngest 2 brothers. And we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And we lived on a couch. My older brother, and myself slept on a couch. It was a couch bed at one time, but it was broke. And so for 6 months, my older brother would sleep on the top, and I would sleep on half the foam that we had cut in half. And I would sleep on the floor, and we would, swap. He would sleep on the floor, I would sleep. And, you get tired of that. So I would, go outside and steal, started progressively stealing little things, bicycles and stuff like that. Then I would fight and take people's bicycles and stuff like that. And it began to escalate, cars and petty hustling here and there. So I got locked up as juvenile a couple of times for malicious wounding, car theft, burglary tools, and then eventually I caught a murder charge where a couple of people were shot in Fairfax, and me and 3 co-defendants were sentenced. 2 of us got life sentences, and 2 others had 20 years, 24 years, I think.
Quick
And
question.
as a result of that, of course, I was locked up, and that was an eye opener. I kind of expected to get locked up sooner or later. Honestly, I didn't want to. I tried to get into adult ed. I remember my stepmother going with me to Cadoza High School and getting a blue card, a transfer card, because I was like, if I can't go to, because I felt behind. I kept getting locked up in juvie. I did 3 little stints in juvie. I did like 8 months, 3 months, 5 months. So in my mind, every time I went to class, I'm 5, 6, 7, 8 chapters behind. So I wasn't trying to pay attention because I'm behind. My pride wouldn't allow me to ask the teacher for help or maybe some tutoring. That's something I speak to the youth about real heavy now, putting your pride aside and pulling the teacher to the side and saying, look, I feel slow in this regard. I need help. So I didn't do that. Yes, sir.
So you now locked up.
Right.
Can you tell me about the emotions that you felt, especially when you first got the time?
When I first got the time, I heard the numbers. They said you have life plus 10. And honestly, I didn't know what that meant. When you hear older men in prison talking, man, if you get this, you get that, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, So they would say, if you get 50 years, and you're gonna probably have to do like 28 of them. The old heads that were like prison lawyers. They tell you about prison. So, when I heard the numbers, I wasn't even shocked. I was like, and I sat there and I listened. And I'm like, life, I wonder what that is. Then we get this, it's a paper, not a pre-sentence report, it's a paper. It's a name for it. And I can't recall it, but you get it when you first, get your time, and you get it progressively, at least once a year, twice a year. So when I got it, it said, your sentence, it says life, and it says S, which means special sentence. And it says 600 years. I'm like, 600 years? So I showed it to a couple of old heads. I'm like, man, what does that mean? And they like, no. You're gonna probably have to do in Virginia with life. You got a chance. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna probably have to do 15. They're gonna probably turn you down like maybe 10, 20 times. You probably be out in 30, right? So when they would break that down, I'm like, okay, and I always listen with a stoic expression, like,
But I guess they did give you some type of hope, because they ain't telling you that life means life. They letting you know
there's some life
might get to you, but it's gonna be a long time. Yeah, it's way out there.
Way down, right there, and it gave you hope, but the feelings were wow. And the truth. That night I sat back and just reflected on all the wrong turns I took. I swear I was like, man, if I'd have just stayed in school, man, if I'd have just stayed in that school, man, if I'd have just listened and stayed home that day. Like I literally ran through that whole night. So it was rough. I didn't cry. A lot of people cried. The tears didn't hit me then. It took a long time for them to come. But it was almost a feeling of hopelessness, because I'm like, okay, if I got to do 30 years, how I'm gonna do it, right? So in my mind, I saw all the movies, I done heard all the stories. I'm not gonna let nobody rape me. I'm not gonna let nobody take nothing from me. So, and I'm from DC, and I was raised by my father, for the most part, primarily a couple of uncles, a couple of family friends that were, they were men, so they taught me how to defend myself, and I never had a problem with that, so I just knew.
You used to box a little bit.
Yeah. So I just wasn't gonna let anything happen to me if I could help it. So I went in there with that mentality, like, okay, I would play cards to distract myself. And, people get slick out the mouth playing cards. I get into a fight, because I'm not going to let you get slick. I'm like, I'm going to nip everything in the bud before it even gets before it goes any further. So for the first, I would say for the first year, in the jail, and even down the roads, we call it, in the prison system, I was quicker to react. I was quick to react, quick to just cut off what I deemed to be disrespect. But it's crazy because the emotions that you get the first day, you get emotions throughout your time. Like, again, you come in, you're a wild youngin', in your mind, you like, all right, this whatever. Because you don't trying to face the emotion. You're not trying to deal with, how do I really feel? I'm gonna miss my mother. You don't try to think like that. You just try to think, all right, okay, I'm gonna write my letters. Whoever answer the phone, answer. Whoever don't, they don't. This where I live now. So whoever say something sideways, I'm gonna squash them. And whoever, seem real, I'm gonna rock with them. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I'm gonna hang by myself. And that's how much I carried it. And then, as time changes, as I evolve, then the emotions change. Then it becomes moments when you crying, like you really shedding tears, like, I missed this, I missed that, I missed that. Then you get there a time when you regret. That's when you really know you change. Now when you miss the store, now when you miss your family, everybody's gonna miss that. Now when you miss freedom, you really grow, in my opinion, when you regret the things you've done, right? Because you begin to think about those who you've harmed outside of those that you love that are harmed by your imprisonment.
So a bunch of emotions. You in there. You're starting to grow. For you, it came during reflection. Reflection of those whom you'd harm. I don't know where you was at with God at that moment. Had you started, I guess, reforming with God, because I do know you're a Muslim. Had you started reforming then, or when did that come?
Honestly, that came later on, because the truth is most of us are raised in either a Christian household or a Muslim household. From in the DC area, you had that a large Muslim society base, and my family, most of my family are Christians. So I've been to church a few times. I've been to the mosque. I've been to temples. So even with a lot of guys that are locked up that I know, they grew up in the church, right? The streets just have a tug. So that was always a whisper in my mind, like, who do you turn to? And most people just sit back and they say God automatically, like, God, man, don't let this happen. Or what I'm gonna do, God, you know what I'm saying? What I'm gonna, Lord, come on, I done seen guys grab Bibles that ain't never hadn't touched the Bible since they was like 5 years old. That did not happen for me immediately. Like I say, the first year or two, I was, typical youngin', playing cards, talking about the street, talking about go-go's and girls and guns and neighborhoods and just silliness, trying to occupy the time. Woulda, shoulda, they say, you know what I mean? I could have did that. I could have had this. I could have did that. Should have did this. I should have did that. I want to do this. I want to do that. That was the first 2 years. I had an appeal, and this is truly where I grew. If I get choked up, forgive me. It's still a lot of growing.
Man, tears is good. Look, you here.
I had an appeal. I went back to Fairfax, and my brother's children's mother, Tanya, she brought up my niece, my first niece, to kid. She was little. She put her on the desk, and she turned around. She said, "Look at your uncle." She turned around. She touched the glass. You know, and I knew it's like I'm a family man. I had a father, and he raised us, but he got on drugs real heavy. I had an uncle that loved me. I had cousins. I had a family, and even though some were on drugs, some were alcoholics, some were criminals, uh, many were good. But man, I love my family, and anybody that know me know, right or wrong. And I'm not saying even in the wrong, I love them. You know what I'm saying? We don't always get along. We don't always agree. Love them. So with that said, I didn't have my siblings. Now I'm used to taking care of them, doing what I could for them, even in my foolishness. And this is my first niece. I can't hold it. So that night, I went to my cell. A buddy of mine came and he was like, "Man, what they do?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What's up, man?" So he said, He said, you want to play cards? You want to play cards? I said, no. And I believe I had my time then. Yeah, I had my time. And I had life intent. So when I came back for appeal, that's what that was. And my niece, my brother, baby mother, brought my niece to see me. Uh, my man came to the cell and he was like, man, you try to play some cards? And that night was the last time, or rather, that night, I said no to cards. I never played tabletops ever again. No. I used to like to play chess. I was good at chess when I was young. I played in juvie. I played in little tournaments in juvie. I love chess because it was a thinking man's game.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy thing is people put so much stock in chess. So much stock in chess. I mean, in prison, they dudes. I used to know old heads to walk around with chessboards under their arm
All
and
day
go to the
long.
rec yard and be sitting on the bleachers like this for 3 hours and can't get life right. Master chess players, but can't get life right? So, yeah. So that night, I thought about my niece and I said to myself, "This is the truth." So I'm not gonna get another fight playing the stupid tabletops, cards, none of that. And I never played table because that's why I got to a lot of situations because I just didn't like what I considered disrespect. So that night is when I believe I decided to grow. I wasn't gonna play cards, tabletop, anything that could draw me out of my intended goal, which was to grow. Get my GED, grow up, and survive, but also learn. Uh, and in doing that, I started making salat. I started getting back into my prayers, getting back into my reading. But like I say, I was raised by a father who was so broad-minded, a family that is so, diverse
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't just stick with, just the nation or just, Islam. I would go to church at Greensville. I would go to more science. I just wanted to, increase my spiritual development while I was, striving to find me. I wanted to make sure I listened to as much truth as I could uh, in my evolution.
All right. So I know you started teaching some of the younger people later on in prison how to box, how to do certain things. This is discipline. How did that come about? Because you didn't just make a change in yourself. You started making change in young men that you came around, that you was around, older men probably. But how did this start happening?
Um, well, for those that know the prison system and people that from DC or up north, as they call it, the DMV area, we like to box. That's how we were
Mm-hmm.
raised. My father would move furniture out the way on Saturdays and Sundays and tell us how to put our hands up and how to throw jabs. And that's my cousin. My Uncle Wayne just loved to put your hands up, nephew. Come on, So we were raised boxing. We're staying on the street corner. Let's slap box. Let's go to body. Like that's how we grew up. So a lot of us would do that. And some of the guys saw me, just slather boxing with some of the brothers in the nation. Uh, or just playing around sometime, which is rare, but guys will pull up. Most people call me Brother Khalid. Brother Khalid, hey, you know what I'm saying? You gotta be training. And at first I'll be like, nah, because there was another brother that was from DC that, he was a few years older than me, and he would tell guys, man, don't train. And this is what he would say. He would say, don't train these dudes. Talking about the Virginia guys. He said,
Mm-hmm.
and you train them, next thing you know, they're gonna try to, turn that joint against you. And so I was like, all right. But then I would look at it, but my mind wasn't on just rocking with DC guys. Cause I
Mm-hmm.
have family in Arlington, like a lot of family. I have family in Alexandria, family in Maryland. So I didn't think like I'm not gonna deal with guys like I dealt with who I wanted to deal with. And to this day I'm the same. So when he said that, I understood it. So I was like, nah, I'm just gonna pick who I choose. Pick who I want to fight or train. So that's what it was. It was individuals that they stood out. When they came and asked me, I usually would walk the yard with them for like maybe 3 or 4, 5 laps, and I would ask them like, why? Why you want to learn? And I would listen for their answers. Usually, man, I just want to work out. A couple guys, they were like, man, I just want to get nice. And when they say that, I wouldn't train it because I would ask people in their part, like, man, how was Young? Man, who is it? Whatever. Like, man, Young is stupid. Wow, all he do is dumb stuff. I'm like, okay, he a fool. He want to bully people. He want to just use it against people. And sometimes you'll make the mistake and be fooled by a guy who doesn't even seem like that, and that's what he is anyhow. But you can narrow down that if because I would use it to give guys focus. I love to see the craft. I love to see the boxing craft put together. Like you just like Clay. You see a youngin, he can fight, but he can't box. So when you put that together and you see him moving and throwing and doing all that, and it look good, but it's effective, then it's like, okay, I done put something nice together. But not only that, along the way, I'd be like, you got to read. Like, I got to read? Like, yeah, here's a book, you know what I'm saying? Tuesdays or more, okay? Here's Torchlight for America, okay? Here's Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And then as they read something, I would ask them the next day, and would you get out the book? I ain't really read nothing. I would, look, we ain't doing nothing today. They be like, man, nah, for real. I'm like, nah, for real. Yeah, nah, for real. I ain't doing nothing. And I'll walk y'all. And they be like, so they'll go read something, come back the next day. All right, so dude said, and he'll quote something. And I'm like, all right, and that would allow me to get in with them, form a bond. And now they trust me. And now it's the days we're not boxing, they sitting on the bench like, man, look, I about to fight this dude last night, right? So, or they'll say, man, my mom don't fight. I don't know what to do. So I took it seriously. And a couple of the brothers are home now, and I still have bonds with them now. One of them is in Suffolk, Virginia. He's a rapper. LV7 Ink God.
I want you to tell him I want to interview him too.
Yeah, but, good brother, man.
Yeah.
He said the other day, he said, I don't want to be in prison. He said, don't. He said, but man, I miss walking that yard, man. He said, used to have me fasting. He said, we be training. He said, I just miss that focus, man. He said, I
miss the bond.
I said, we all do. I said, we all do. I said, because we out here now. There's no restrictions. And so we all gonna go through moments where we're not making salat. We're not picking that Quran up. We're not picking that Bible up. We're gonna go through moments where we want to see what that club like. We want to see what the ladies look like. We want to go over here and see what they doing. And the Bible says if you rear a child right, they'll come back.
Come on now.
You understand? So they gonna go. They gonna go. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna go. We're gonna look around for a minute. We're gonna smell the roses.
But we're gonna come back.
That grass is greener. Then we're gonna realize, and then we're gonna come back and say, you know what? Ain't nothing on that side that's worth my time and attention, and we'll bring it back. So yeah, I did that, and I used that as a mentoring base.
So I asked that because you're technically doing the same thing now. So we're gonna bring it on to the forward progress. Well, matter of fact, before I get there, how did you feel when they finally gave you parole?
I felt great. I felt a degree of disbelief, to be honest with you, because people have been hearing it. Like certain people have made it. I'm like, he made it. And a guy made it that came to me and said, how I make it before you make it. My word. He was like, man, you do everything. And you staying out of trouble. You don't smoke, you don't drink. You helping brothers. Like, how I make it? I said, you supposed to make it. In my mind, I was thinking the same thing. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, God, like, how I ain't make it? And this dude made it. Like, this dude made it. And then I thought about it. I chastised myself, and I was like, when it's your time. But it was a wave that made it, So God, allowed me to be in that wave. How I felt great. I did not look like I felt great because I've seen people get to the door of freedom
and get scared.
Get to the door, like the gate, the close, and they say, hey, you got a federal warrant.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I've seen people, they say, man, you going home next week? I'm out of here. They're giving all their books away. They're giving all their music away. They're giving their canteen away. They're giving out numbers and addresses. They're collecting numbers and addresses.
And then they'll make
here, come to the watch office, such, come to the watch office, and everybody looking. And that face that come back is like, and then you take your time and you pull up on them later like, what's up, man? Depending upon your bond with this person, man. What's up, man? And that man got a tear in his eye, eyes are red. He like, man, they talking about I had 2 warrants out for me, man. I ain't even do nothing. Warrants from where? One from But one was, oh, John, I thought they know processed it, man. And they won't, and find out they got to do another 2 years, or they got to detain her in another state. I've seen that. So I did the same. I gave a lot of books away. You know, I gave away books to brothers I know would use them. And I felt good, but I was always skeptical. But because I had actually had a charge in Arlington, there was never, it was no process, but it was a serious charge. You know what I'm saying? A malicious wound, bad child. You know, I got to a fight. I got extreme with it. And I just never, nothing ever happened except for a normal process because my other case superseded that. But in my mind, I'm like, how did that happen? It still happened, you know?
Yeah.
So I just was always nervous. So I was happy. I was excited on the inside. I never really showed it, except for, you know, you talk to a few guys like, man, y'all having a conversation where you allowing yourself that vision, like, what you gonna do? Say, where the first place you going? Who you going to see? You know? So that was a part of the feelings throughout. But when I
Gotcha.
first heard it, it was hard to believe, to be honest with you.
So you out now. How did you get into mentoring? Because this is what you were when you was in prison. But I see you since you've been home, and you've been home how long?
About 4.5.
So for the last 4.5 years, you named off all the things that you have done since you've been home. And matter of fact, congratulations. Thank you for being who you are. I'm grateful to be able to call you my brother. Uh, you have come and supported me every which way since we met. Anytime you've showed up, and I thank you for that. Uh, I ain't gonna look. I got family members who don't do what you do, so it's enlightening and heartfelt to see you everywhere that I see you at. And I can tell you, God brought us together because not only did I meet you down in Halifax, I got to meet you again somewhere else, and ever since then it's just been constant. So thank you for being who you are. But
Yes.
you decided to start mentoring, and you have never stopped. You do it with the youth that you're over there for, and I understand why. You look back at yourself or who you was, and you wish somebody like you was around. So you're pretty much showing up for the younger you. Those kids make you happy, and I appreciate you taking the time to do what you do. Uh, I don't think I have teared up many times since I've been doing this, but I've teared up a few times since me and you've been talking. When you said something about your niece, and how she was the change for you. When you spoke about uh, just walking around with the men and making them read books. I appreciate all the older men that were like you who had went through that poured into younger men like myself. So once again, appreciate you, bro. And share with me, for everybody else, what what you want to do now, because you're already doing a lot. But share.
Well, I appreciate you, and I can thank you forever, just because. Um, I want to do more. You know, to be honest with you, there's something in me that constantly whispers, do more, do more. And I'll be honest with you, it hasn't been easy, right? It hasn't been easy because I did this inside for a long time. Like I said, I'm a family man, so I take the mentoring seriously. One young brother from Potomac Guards the other day, Tyron, right? He lives with his father out in Maryland, but he comes around the garden every day and waits to get picked up. And he called me. It was a snow day. And he called me up morning and said, bro, Khalid, I was late for my bus. I said, where you at? He said, Maryland. And he mentioned where. I said, oh. I said, so he said, man, can you call me an Uber? Because I missed it. It's 2 hours late. It's 2 hour delay, and I missed it. So I was like, all right. So I said, this is what I said. I said, you ain't lying. You ain't trying to buy no smoke, is you? He said, no, 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 I wouldn't do that, man. Go ahead, like, giggle. So I said, pull it up, see how much it is. So he like, did it. He said, man, it's too much. Don't even worry about it. I said, how much is it? He said, it's $21. So I'm gonna send you 25. And I said, get to school, man. You know what I mean? Be on time. And I did that, and it felt good. When I pull around Potomac Gardens and little youngins, they see my van, they run up to the van. Like I got footage on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like I love these kids. I love them. I want to see them graduate. I've had mothers come from college, talk to them. I think of ways to bring resources to these kids. I've been blessed to come across some good people who have been willing to contribute whatever they can offer, whether food, whether cosmetics, whether toys, whether a little bit of time, a little bit of attention, even among my own family, my own nieces, my own nephews, my own sister, my brothers, have helped transport the kids to the zoo, to the pet farms, museums. And that's what I want to do. I want to continue to bring resources to these children and parents who need them, but not for these kids alone. I want to do it for as many as I can. I want to keep speaking. I've called Manassas Detention Center 6 times in 6 months, been trying to get that. And I told him I don't need no money. I just need to get in there, And I told the guy the last time I spoke to him, which was a week ago, I said, man, do you think that I get a kick out of telling my story all the time? I said, my mother died 2 months. 2 months before I came home. 2 months, man. My mama died. They called me. I was in the parole pod, man, ready to get one out of it. They called me. They said, Kareem, and they pointed to the phone. And my cousin said, he was like, sorry, cuz. And it's a weight. It's a weight to not be able to show my mother that everything I wrote was real, man. It's real. But I believe, God got her. She had mental issues. She had cancer. I didn't know. That's what I want to do. I want to talk to the kids. I want to help them because, like you said, I see me. I see a kid that has family, but they're not perfect, right? Some of these kids don't have an uncle figure. I want to be that. Some of them don't have a father figure. I don't mind being there. Some of them don't have a big brother. I remember my cousin Tatisha wrote me one time, and she reminded me of a story that she went to the same junior high I went to, Shaw Elementary. And I remember I used to see her in school, and I'd be like, she was in the 7th, I was in the 9th. I used to always ask her, you good? If I mess with her, she's like, no. And one day her friend was like, yeah, this boy keep picking with her. And I'm like, what? Who? So, came this point, dude out, and suffice it to say, when I addressed it, every day after that, he was offering my cousin some money. You want $1? You want $1? And she told me that. And I never knew it. But she told me that. She wrote me a letter. She was in North Carolina in college. And she said, you were one of the reasons I was able to be me, which was quiet to myself, because you made me feel comfortable being that, and you protected that. She said, everybody didn't have no big brother. She said, and even though you're my cousin, you like my big brother, And so I took family serious. I take being a brother serious. So when I sit down at night, I'm thinking, how can I get in that detention center? And you'd be surprised how many people just don't embrace that. Like, honestly, I call people, I don't even want to put them out there. I call them like, look, I tell them my story. I tell them other people's story. I got partners, man. One of my men, he had 27 years for something he didn't do. He was in the White House last night with his sister. My man Troy Ketchmore Chanel was in the White House with my man Adrian Cook because of the work they doing down in Newport News, Virginia. He was in the White House. He did 27 years for something he didn't do, My man Paul Taylor, this man started a league, a basketball league in Virginia. He's from Newport News in Richmond, Virginia. For safer streets.
I interviewed him in my whole interview. I didn't have no sound to the interview. I'm not re-interview him. I was supposed to do it Sunday, but look, man, this is the reason why I'm doing these. Because we're not getting seen for the things that we do, for the things that people like yourself, the people like Paul Taylor, all of the men that I've met. I see greatness. I see how much we care. And it's important for us to tell these stories of don't nobody else. Because all they show is the negative. It's up to us to wake up and show the positive. We are the narrative that fights the narrative that they show about us. But it's up to us to tell these stories. So I made it my business to start being a storyteller. And I appreciate you, man. And we're going to see how we can get you some funding. somehow. Don't know how, but hey,
Yes, sir.
I learned something. You have not because you ask not.
That's true.
We gonna ask God, and then we gonna ask God to bring the rest of it.
Yes, sir.
Because you need to be supported for what you do, and you don't look for money for it.
No.
It's just what you have in your heart to do, but you need money for it to happen in a bigger way. So we gonna make this work. Look, oh yeah, tell them about your books because you wrote 3 books
2 poem books, yes, sir.
in in prison, right? And
The first one I wrote in prison, and that's on Lulu. I apologize, I don't have a copy of that one right now, but it is in lulu.com. It's called I Was Just Thinking, um, and it's about 70 poems. I wrote them all in prison, and it was just it's about everything, honestly. Relationships. I wrote a poem about coffee because I like coffee. I wrote a poem about called My Visiting Ant because some of the prison cells now are ant infested. So I used to watch ants walk along the wall every day. I wrote a poem called Pigeon Feathers because everybody that I know in prison used to look at birds and be like, man, if I could fly, man, I'd get out of here. And then one day I saw a hawk take a pigeon out the sky.
they
And I was
do
like, and I said, you know what? We ain't meant to have wings. Because if I had wings, that hawk might have got me, So, but I've written a lot of poetry, and I love to write. I don't really recite it as much, but I love to write. In my second book, which I wrote, most of the poems is like 6 from my first one in here, but my second book is Still Thinking, and this is on Amazon. Uh, and it's like again 70 new poems. It's 2 short stories in here, which I think I'm gonna write 2 more in addition to those because a lot of good feedback has come back from these 2 particular short stories, which are connected. Uh, in there, same thing. I've written poetry about the homeless. I ride through DC and I see the homeless, and sometimes you see them coming to your window and you like, and right now, God is my witness. Right now, I have 2 brothers that are homeless. My older brother, right? One of my younger brothers, homeless, man. You know, man, listen, I never thought I'd drive a car and drive and see my older brother by 1 year homeless. And it
I think
hurts
you
me.
told me
My
that
younger
you
brother,
seen him in
he has
style.
mental issues like my mama. And he's incarcerated right now for like just wilding in public, but he's safe there. It's been cold. And he doesn't sit still. He'll go over my sister's house, he'll go over our baby brother's house, but he won't sit there but more than 3 days. Then he'll take to the subway and sleep wherever. So I'm grateful he's warm and he's safe right now.
So
But I've written poetry about everything. So that poem book Still Thinking is on Amazon.com. If you like them, go ahead and get you 1 or 2 and let me know how you like it.
if you will, let them know your IG or either your in your Facebook page, and if you could tell the youth, somebody older, or anything, if you can give something impactful, tell me what would you share with them?
Uh, my Facebook page is Khalid Kareem. The spelling you all see. My IG is Khalid Kareem 75. And also Lessons Learned 75. That's the name of my nonprofit. It's not 501c3 yet and all that, but the work is being put in, despite. And if I could tell, and I have a YouTube channel, my fault, which I tell prison stories. I don't curse. I'm not silly or nothing. I'm being honest, and that's Lessons Learned by Khalid Kareem 75. If I could tell anybody anything, the younger me, older person, the younger them, I would tell them it's all right to be you. It's all right to be you. And as simple as that is, as simple as that sounds, I wanted to be a teacher, a math teacher. I always liked science. And if I'd have stayed the course, right? If I didn't worry about being joked in class, joned on just for being nerdy, if I didn't worry about that, I wouldn't have turned to thuggish. If I didn't worry about what the hood thought, then I probably would be a math teacher somewhere. I've always liked, Lean On Me. That's one of my favorite movies. So I used to look at it growing up, and I saw how Joe Clark and them made learning fun. and all that. And I used to be like, I could do that. I could help. I could be, teach people, but I could also keep them out of trouble. And I would have been a math teacher like that, serious, but good, fun. And but I would tell people that it's all right to be you. And I'm not
Guess
talking
what?
about this today. You can be you, silly type of. No, I mean you at the core of your heart. Most of us at the core, not all of us, want to do something good, wholesome, and helpful, right? Whether it's be a police officer, whether it's be a fireman, whether it's be a preacher, a minister, a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, whether we want to make the parks look beautiful, whether we want to turn around and design homes or be interior designers, be barbers. And so these are the things we think about when no one is looking. But when we're around people, then man, I just, it is what it is. Or, I want to, shake my behind on YouTube. I want to twerk. I want to hustle hard and grind. And nah. That ain't what we really be. What we really want to be when no one's looking, it's all right to be that person. It's all right. And I would urge us to push
Go
that,
ahead.
let people know that, and you'll find that God will put people in your life to make that dream, that desire attainable.
And just to let you know, you are a teacher. It may not have been math or science, but you have taught people in prison, out of prison. You are still teaching the youth. So your goal actually did become complete. Look, I love you, bruh. Peace and blessings. And stay on for a second. This is the end of Forward Progress. Thank y'all for joining.